Anyway, thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, guys. So we put our contact information up there. We've got actually, in addition to us, there's a couple of our colleagues here. Gabby Witt, who's our newest associate, just joined us this year, and Daniel Espenson, our colleague, who I think some of you know as well, is associate of ours in the corporate group. So, any questions? Can we answer?
Given that you just accepted $50,000 and a bunch of stock, what's your attitude about Zynga? Company that's now
Zynga?
taking back the stock.
That's fascinating, right? How many folks saw that Wall Street Journal article? Yeah, that's fascinating. They said, if you give back your stock or you're fired, right? That's companies do what they have to do in order to get all their ducks in a row for an IPO and for whatever strategic plan they have. Zynga's just doing what they think is best for their founders. I think it'll, and presumably the employees that they view as performing employees as well. I thought that was interesting. It was probably a little more draconian than I've seen other companies in the past. Yeah.
If you're trying to decide which state to incorporate, is there any preference?
Yeah.
In Maryland and Virginia?
Yeah. If you are going to go definitely in a route of VC financing, angel VC financing, you'd probably just better off just going ahead and incorporating in Delaware as a Delaware C corporation. Every VC, 99,999 out of 10,000 or 100,000 deals, a VC is going to insist that you be a Delaware C corporation. What you then have to do is, if you're located in Virginia, is you file a certificate of authority to transact business in Virginia as a foreign corporation. It throws some people out like, oh, I'm not a foreign corporation. Well, you're foreign between Virginia and Delaware. But it's a simple thing. It's not that very costly. And then if you're generating your income in Virginia, you pay Virginia income taxes, or you pay taxes in the state, and B-poll tax for business professional occupancy license, et cetera. Same thing in Maryland. Department of Taxation, Assessments and Taxation, you pay them. And Delaware just has its franchise fee that you pay. But you can avail yourself of the Delaware courts and avail yourself of the well-established Delaware law. If you're going to be an LLC, or you're going to not take venture capital, and you're going to just be a growth company that that you're going to, an income company that you want to run, then if you're in Virginia, incorporate in Virginia or be in a Virginia LLC. If you're in Maryland, be a Maryland LLC, and it's fine. And then you have one state, your home state, that you're reporting to, and if you start establishing operations in our states, you may have to, again, get that certificate of authority to transact business. But if you're going to stay local and run a plumbing business in Virginia, just be a Virginia company. Yes.
I'm working with a game startup, and I had some questions specific to, there's a lot of copying in the game space, a lot of game companies take other games and make slight variations or significant variations. And I guess the one that probably got into a lot of trouble was the Scrabulous. Are there any other things that are particular to games that you think are important to keep in mind?
I think games present a lot of interesting issues, right? To the extent that somebody owns the copyright in sort of an original set of games, and somebody's creating what would be considered derivative work. There's issues there. One thing I often see is the sort of trademark issues that go along with games. Gaming companies seem to run into the names of each other quite a bit, or if you're trying to describe the game in a way with an identifier that somebody knows, well, if it turns out that somebody owns the trademark in that name, that can create a lot of problems. I've often seen, well, I shouldn't say often, but I have seen game companies that will try to pawn off the success of another game company by naming their product something very similar. And so what I often advise is that for game companies that think they're on to something, think they've developed something perhaps a little novel or a little new, and you want to put a tag on it, and you think it's got some adoption, filing trademarks on it are often a good idea, because then, therefore, if you put out another app, right, that happens to have, and somebody else puts out an app that has a similar name and it does the same type of game, you may have rights against that person. But yeah, games are certainly an interesting animal in the application space.
Well, Sanjay, let me ask Sanjay a follow-up question. What you're saying, following up on what he's saying, Sanjay, is there's a difference, right, between, for example, games that are unique and brand new, that have like Angry Birds, which has its own unique feel and action and everything else, versus checkers. So checkers is kind of like in the public domain as a game. So you may have your version of checkers, and I may want to do a checkers, and where you can't stop me from also having a checkers app. What you can stop is me from copying is your expression of that checkers game, the look and feel, the trade dress of that game. So
to the extent that somebody is taking, now remember you remember what we talked about at sort of the very beginning, the IP rights that are protectable. So copyright would protect the code itself. So to the extent that somebody's actually pawning off the code of someone else, that's easily copyright infringement. Now that's not, most of the time in the game space, that's not really what you're talking about. What you're really talking about are copying of the concepts. Now to the extent that that concept isn't protected by trade secret because it's publicly out there, it's publicly available, everybody knows it, that's difficult to protect. If there's no functionality that's patented there, remember you can't, if there's nobody that holds a patent on that particular functionality, you can't protect it that way. So what are you forced to rely on? You are forced to rely on, really, as Dean was saying, the sort of trade dress and the look and feel, and making the argument that, I have a protectable trademark in this game, and that trademark is being pawned off, it's being infringed upon by somebody else. We have seen circumstances where folks have had to go after people for pawning off really similar games and really trading off the names of others. And actually, it's not just unique to the game space. I mean, I have seen it in the app space where folks have one particular name for a type of functionality, and lo and behold, the next 2-3 weeks later, out comes another app that has a very similar name that provides very similar functionality, and maybe that one's filled with bugs, and so therefore, the original company gets upset about that. That sort of thing happens more and more, given the ease of getting into the App Store. Yeah.